Hi friends, it is the 30th day of the month, so we are in Proverbs, the 30th chapter, and we are going to look at verses 24 through 28. This is going to be a little lengthier than the ones that we usually do, but I think it has some good stuff in it, and if you watch it to the end, I think you'll find a few treats that you weren't expecting as we talk about this. Now, I'm not going to necessarily read through all the scriptures, but I'm just going to kind of pull out some of the gems so that I can share them with you. You know, this verse or these verses talk about four creatures, but they're not the creatures that well, let me just say it talks about wise creatures basically, and it talks about the positive aspects of what these creatures do, what they how they accomplish things and how they live. And usually, not usually, but it gives us some insight on how they maneuver through life. And these are some gems that we could use to help us maneuver through life and through the things that we deal with. One is being wise and having wisdom doesn't depend on your size. That's one note that I want you to take. You might want to jot some things down. Being wise does not depend on your size. It doesn't depend on the size of your business, your home, your family members or your family, or even your friends around you or your squad. Being wise has nothing to do with the external things that are around you. Wisdom doesn't have anything to do with your appearance. We want to make sure we talk about that. It doesn't matter how you look. Looking at someone, you can't tell whether or not they're wise just by looking at them. But this one talks about an ant in the scripture, and it talks about ants, and ants are so small, yet they are smart enough to make sure they gather what they need when the weather is good, so that when the winter time comes, they can kind of stay huddled up where they are, you know, in their homes, and not even come out. They don't come out for the winter because they prepared for it in the summer. They've prepared for what's ahead. In this scripture, this set of scriptures, it talks about the groundhog. Well, groundhogs are plump, and this talks about this being the heaviest member of the squirrel family. Now, the thing, or let's see, the challenge that you might see in this is that the groundhog is heavy, and that it's like the slowest member of the groundhog family, and that it's sluggish, or you might want to look at it like that. And it's considered the most vulnerable of that species. But you know what? They are able to build, and they are able to build with such precision, and able to build in a place of safety that they have a rock solid house and place for themselves to dwell that will ultimately serve as a place of protection for them. So even though they're sluggish, even though they're big, even though they're slow, they still have the wisdom to build an infrastructure that would give them the support that they need in the times that they need it. Also in these verses, it talks about the locusts. The locusts are bugs that seem to have no direction. They seem to have no captain. They seem to have no leader in a sense. But when they swarm on a field, or, you know, in grass, or if you've seen a swarm of locusts just kind of devour crops, they all work like it's a synchronized event. They know what to do, when to do. They all, you know, kind of converge on it, and they all kind of leave at the same time. So even though they kind of seem like they're doing things randomly, there is a rhyme and a reason for the way that they're doing things. So we can learn from the locust. You know, they can devour things like in an orchestrated way, and we can learn that when we have challenges, that, you know, there are things that we can do to make our lives easier moving forward. We have challenges one way or the other, and so the question is, what are you, or what will you let stop you from growing? Is there anything that you will allow to stop you? Is the fact that you're in a place where you feel like you don't have anybody working in synchronization with you, is that going to stop you from moving forward and growing? Are you going to be like the groundhog and say, you know what, I'm too big, too small, too short, too tall, you know, I don't have the right hair color or the right wardrobe? Are you going to let that stop you? What about the ant? The ant being really small and can only do so much, but the ant can carry about 50 pounds, 50 extra pounds, its weight, you know, but the ant uses what it has in order to get done what it needs to get done, so that in the winter it can survive. So what are you going to let stop you? I want you to think about that. The last one that we want to look at, even in the scripture, it talks about a lizard. The lizard is small, not easy to catch, or easy to catch, but it is small enough and smart enough that it can maneuver its way to get in around, little cracks and crevices. So even though it can get captured, if somebody, takes the time to do that, but sometimes the lizard is so smart, it can kind of figure out a way, not necessarily the conventional way, but it can figure out a way to get to where it wants to go. So this is what we want to say about those 4 things or 5 things those 5 insects that we talked about, or insects, animals, bugs that we talked about. The ant is small, but it's no smarter than you. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. If you fail to have a vision, then you're not going anywhere. People without a vision cast off restraints, and there are no boundaries. There are no guardrails to keep you moving forward. But if you have a vision, you know where you're going. And so you stay within the guidelines to get you from point A to point V. So if you don't have a vision, where are you going? If you don't have a plan, where are you going? The ant has a plan. That's why the ant is successful. And even though the groundhog is vulnerable, it still has enough diligence to build a home that will protect them from other animals, and will also protect them from the elements, from the rain, from the snow, and even from the cold weather. The groundhog is no smarter than you are. You're a lot smarter than the groundhog. So what are you doing to prepare for your future? There has to be something. You can't just say, oh, I'll deal with it when it comes. There has to be something that you're planning. You don't have to plan everything, but there has to be some structure. I want you to think about that. I want to drive that home. There needs to be some kind of structure about where you see yourself. How do you envision yourself? How do you imagine yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, this time next year, 5 years from now? What do you see yourself doing? And whatever that is, start making a plan to make it happen. You can do it. If the groundhog can do it, if the ant can do it, you can do it, definitely. So whatever you're doing, know that you have the ability to make a difference and the ability to be successful. Did you know that there are a few things, but one major thing that's different between a poor person and a rich person? Do you know what that is? Knowledge, and applying that knowledge to their lives. That's it. The poor person knows something the rich person knows something that the poor person doesn't know. Or the rich person, they may have the same information. The rich person has applied what they know to their lives, to the event, to the business, to the situation, to the relationship, in order for it to be fruitful. They have a vision. They know where they want to go and how to get there. The poor person maybe doesn't execute, maybe doesn't set themselves in a place where they're able to be around the right individuals who will be able to move them forward and give them the insight that they need and give them the connections that they need. Knowledge makes a difference, and how to apply that knowledge really makes a difference. Well, the locust, we talked about the locust. They move with precision. They accomplish a goal. They seem to do it with coordination like nobody's business. So I want to ask you, who's in your inner circle? Who are the people that are around you, who are talking to you in your ear gates? Who's on your team? Have you thought about the teammates that you have with you and who you want to bring along with you? Who's helping you move forward? Or are the people around you, do they want you to stay where you are because it's comfortable for them? So they don't want you to outshine them or make them feel bad for not putting forth an effort. Who's around you, and who are you dragging along? There are people who are willing to go and they just don't know how to get there, but they're willing to kind of work out a plan with you. But then there are people who just want to show up when the times are good and when it's time to reap the harvest, but they don't want to put in any work. I want you to ask yourself, who are you dragging along? Who's in your circle? Who's on your team? Who is helping you move forward? And who are you dragging along? I want you to write those things down and really think about them. And there may be some areas where we need to change. I need to do the same thing. There may be some areas where we need to change. Now, if the locust knows how teamwork makes the dream work, then what are you doing to make your dream work? What kind of teamwork is happening on your behalf in order to move you forward with your vision? Let's think about that. So get the right team around you, get the right friends, get the right employees, get the right, girlfriends or guy friends, get the right besties, put them around you so that you're able to have somebody to lean on and somebody to encourage you. We want to keep moving forward, and we've got to have the right people around us in order to do that. So I challenge you to make sure you have the right team around you. Now, the lizard we mentioned is small and quick and has a lot of ingenuity. It can get from where it wants to be. If it's on the outside and that lizard wants to get inside, oh, it's going to figure out a way to slither in, especially like when the door opens, and it'll like come through the crevices of the door or what have you. So I want you to think about this. There are places and spaces that you may want to occupy. However, going through the front door is not an option for you to get to that place. Well, be like the lizard. Figure out a way to get in. If it's the side door, the back door, with relationships, with you maybe selling a product, or you coming in to do a pitch, or maybe you even walking through the door. About Tyler Perry, and I heard him in an interview. He said that those doors were closed for him in Hollywood. He wanted to be a part of what they were doing in Hollywood, but they wouldn't let him in. So what did he do? He didn't just go home and go and sit on the edge of the couch and cry and just say, oh, I can't make it. He created his own, and now he is doing things that these big studios were doing. He is actually rivaling some of the work that they were getting. Now they're coming to his studio in Atlanta. He didn't sit back and say, I can't do it. He said, if they don't want me, if I can't go the traditional way, if they're not going to embrace me, I'm going to create my own table. I'm going to create my own opportunities. I'm going to create my own businesses. And now he is employing people and doing the thing that he loves. So there is a way to get what you want. There is a way to get in the open door, but sometimes it may not be you going through the front door. So open up your mind and be creative. Think outside the box, because there is an opportunity for you to get in where you fit in, as they say. So here is your pearl of wisdom. You are not alone in the challenges that you face. Sometimes things are not laid out in step 1, step 2, step 3, but there is always a way to make it to your goal. There's always a way to fulfill your vision. So the question is, what will you let stop you from moving forward, from reaching your goal, from making a difference, from making sure that you are able to accomplish all that your heart's desire? What are you going to let stop you? Let me encourage you, let nothing stop you. Figure it out. Think outside the box and make it happen. You've got it in you. You've got it in you. Listen, we thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, this one was a little longer than we usually have, but I just thought that there were some pearls of wisdom and some gems that we wanted to share with you. As always, we ask you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We so enjoy having you a part of this growing community, and we want you to be alerted when things come up and when we post new videos. So like, share, and subscribe, and turn that bell on so you'll know when we're dropping new gems and new videos. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.